Bienvenidos amigas y amigos. Today's question is, who is the most important negator? And I know what you're thinking right now. You're like, think Darzus. The most important negator is obviously the undead vessel, the one entity who's garnered regulators to coming down to the earth and who cannot even be killed by God's powers. Or maybe you're part of the other camp. Fuko Izumo, the beacon of hope, the woman entrusted to finally get the biggest task done of defeating God. She's gotta be the most important, right? Wrong. There's one individual within the series who Yoshifumi Gotsuka himself has set up to be the most important negator, who even Victor, the divine conqueror, the guy who swept battlefields far and wide, he even said during Ragnarok that without this dude, it's kaputs. Let me tell you a little bit about him today and why Injin, the unburning man, is the most important negator in Undead Unluck. So a moment ago I said Yoshifumi has set up Injin the Unburning Man to be one of the most important negators in Undead Unluck, and it's not just his negation ability. I think Injin, just in his character design, shows that he is a character who is very near and dear to Yoshifumi's heart. But looking into Yoshifumi Gotsuka's early career, you'll see one of his first publications is a series called Super Heavy Charge Vanguard. Take a look at the male lead from that series and you'll see a glaring resemblance to a young unburning man from Undead Unluck. And it's kind of the Hiro Mashima effect if you ask me, kind of like how Natsu and freaking Lucy, there's one of them in every single series. It's just that character design, that person, that element will always be present and it will always be one of the main, more important characters. And I think it just goes to show that if Yoshifumi loves this design so much, he's got a lot in store for Injin, and I think his ability really gives a lot of credence to that as well. Injin's one of those characters we didn't learn too much about in Loop 1. Funny enough, we could have gotten him as a quest reward, however, Juice decided to forego him, considering we already had Burn at that moment. It's really crazy to look back upon that because we lost both those entities, so Juice, good going. But it was during Ragnarok where we finally got introduced to Unburn and his ability, the negation of burning and combustion, which sucks, because it doesn't negate heat, which made it so our girl Bunny, although she wrapped up the sun in her goo, got burnt to, a crisp and got ripped, and it was just a bad introduction, Injin. I know you're going to be an important guy, but we really did not need to see that poor of a performance out of you. But I digress. The sun. A very pivotal point in Undead Unluck, Ragnarok, a very pivotal point in Undead Unluck, and it's the end goal that, we're reaching towards. Unless we figure out within the future that the heart or having all three of the sacred spirit treasures or like finishing all the quests somehow forgoes Ragnarok, that is a situation, an event that we are going to have to come to terms with and that we are going to have to, win at the end of the day. We're going to have to win against the sun. And Victor himself stated that everybody, Undead included, would get burnt to a crisp if Unburn weren't around, if he wasn't able to use his ability. And it's such a wild thing because during Loop 2 Undead Unluck, we've been seeing a lot of just evolutions of the negators, people finding out completely new perceptions of themselves, of the world around them, and just being able to really change their abilities. Whether it be Billy completely warping the perception of his ability and the trigger it has, or if it's like Sean having this very rapid, very quick evolutions of his ability to be able to use it and adapt it to different situations, or as I think is one of the most interesting ones at all, Mr. Kinji Yokezu, a person who has unavoidable, which is completely different than Void's unavoidable. All that we know is that within Undead Unluck, as long as you can change your perception, your understanding of yourself and the world around you, you can do whatever you want to do. So Injin the Unburning Man has to, during this loop, level up to the extent where he can negate that massive heat radiation coming off of the sun, and that is going to be the key, the most pivotal factor during that fight. However, it goes even deeper than that. I was thinking about it. We really don't know how his ability is administered. So we know that he was carrying Bunny and letting her not get burnt, but is there a giant area of effect around Unburn which people cannot get burnt within? Or does he have to actually touch people to have them not get burnt? Because, you know, that's one of the first evolutions that I want to see at a homie. Or maybe he could even level up to an extent where he's kind of Fuko-esque, where he could even just touch people, administer Unburn to them, and it's kind of like a literal buff. And I think it's funny because Undead Unluck always has this feeling of like a JRPG to me. Everybody really like has their purpose within the party and has their spot within, like, you know, the wider organization of people that you're messing around with. And I feel like that could really be Unburn's spot, to be that buffer, the person who keeps everybody going. And this is one of the hypest things I've ever thought of. Maybe Unburn, the ability to not burn. Why couldn't he adapt his perception to potentially stop people from burning calories, turn everybody into some sort of super engine? Wouldn't that be crazy? His name's literally Engine. His name's literally Engine. Come on, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I don't know. And one other thing I'd randomly thought of. His backstory. Engine's backstory. I believe the name Engine, this whole thing having to deal with stopping combustion and burning, it has to obviously be he was a race car driver, right? His birthday is International Firefighters Day, so like the boring way out could be that he's a firefighter, but like a race car driver. Yoshifumi Gotsuka likes to impose true tragedies upon people. And I think not even for a selfish individual, for any individual, to get what you truly love, what your hobby or what your craft is, what you've been like honing your skills in, taken away from you and never being able to do it again. And even the fact that, you know, that boy Engine's a swaggy mother trucker, I imagine he's a race car driver. Just a thought. But how do you feel about this, y'all? Do you agree with me? Does Engine, the Unburning Man, low-key have to be the most important negator in Undead Unluck, just in terms of the endgame? Because think about that. The sun, Ragnarok, although we really saw, like especially at the end of Ragnarok, whenever Victor was able to imbue all of his rage, all of his passion for Jewies and everything into the rebellion, he could get a lot of power out of that. But those freaking fire gods from Muspelheim, there was a lot of them. We're not killing all those unless we have a truly strong union around us, and every negator has to level up. And I think the full potential of Unburn is going to be one of the most important pivotal players in the union. Somebody who can stop the massive heat radiation from the sun, and somebody who, as I said, potentially could also just buff them in terms of like their combat prowess. Because you got to think about that. Although these folks are like superhumans, they are humans in Undead Unluck, and I love that about it. It is a very crazy series, but like folks can die. Everybody but Undead could die. So it would really be cool to see them like maybe like get some sort of regenerative abilities because like they don't have to burn calories, yada yada yada. Who knows? I was ranting for this one. I don't even know how much I'm gonna edit this one, but if you're here, leave a like, comment, subscribe if you're new here, and tell me if you could. What other negators would you like to see covered? Let me like just talk about them, maybe rant about them like this with some like, you know, collected thoughts, where I just get to talk about their past, their potential future, and you know what they could potentially be for Undead Unluck. There's more speculative ones for people such as Engine, but you know, a character such as Rip, who their arc is currently going on, and we know a lot about them from the past, and we're figuring out even more about them within the future. Could like do a deeper dive, you know what I mean? Nonetheless, stay on the lookout for content. I appreciate all of y'all. I hope you're doing well. As that one Amanda chick says, I'm mostly okay. Hasta luego.